So, hi everyone. Today we have a special guest on our channel. We have Jay with us. So, Jay, would you like to introduce yourself once?
Hey Ashish, hey everyone. I'm Jay, currently a final year BTech undergrad at WC. I'm also an upcoming ST at Rubrik, and I've been a winter intern at Rubrik too previously. Uh, a little about me, like I'm mostly interested in maths and CP, so you can expect me to be that CP kind of guy. Yeah, that's a little bit.
Nice man, nice. So, as you guys can see, he's pretty good at competitive programming. He's a master on code forces. He's 6 stars on CodeShip, and apart from that, he's cracked a pretty good offer at Rubrik as well. And in this video, we'll be getting to know his entire journey of how he started with problem solving, mastered problem solving, and got to the level that he is right now. So, watch the video till the end because we'll be discussing all of the details, the strategies that he used, and much, much more. All right. So, would you like to start us off with your interview experience at Rubrik? Like, what all happened? The rounds were there, and what all was there?
Okay, so like the first thing was that I first applied for this Rubriks winter internship opportunity. Now I think this was my first semester of fourth year, so like seventh semester, where Rubrik released this winter internship opportunity. It was an off-campus opportunity, so you actually had to go to the Rubrik careers page, and there was a form, and you had to fill out that form. Just ask for some basic details, email ID, and these things. And then, like, I think this opportunity was like sort of opened up in a few batches. I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but uh, I remember that like one of my friends applied to it before. I missed it at that time, and then I think in the next batch we got to apply for that. Then after that, like we received an OA link. So now even this happened in batches. So one of my friend actually gave an OA before. Then it was like it happened in some two or three batches. I got my OA link somewhere, I guess around September or October. I am not exactly sure of the date, but uh, the OA, it was on GFG. Sorry, no, the OA was on HackerRank, and it was like basically consisted of four questions. I guess it was about 90 minutes, and you had four questions. Questions were pretty good, I would say. It's not like very extremely difficult, not like extremely easy. So the first two questions you could say sort of like code forces, dev to A or B, not A, but somewhere around B. I guess like I think the first one was somewhere centered around like you had an array of numbers and you had to find something. It was like a greedy question where you had to find median on something. I particularly remember the third question. So it was basically the question was like you had a big story around it, but the basic idea behind solving that question was that you had to implement a segment tree for XOR. So to do that, usually what you do is you say your number is restricted to say it's going to have at most 20 bits, then you have 20 segment trees and like separately maintain those 20 segment trees and update them for every query and query them for every query. So yeah, like these were sort of the OA questions. The last one was something related to graphs. I was able to solve it only partially, like the question was a bit unclear. So you had these things, and mostly I think I even had discussion with my friends who gave OA previously and after me, and you can sort of like expect two questions with code forces B to C difficulty, and the last two questions, like it depends sort of on your luck, I would say, to some extent. But yeah, like the last question, you could say they are with code forces div to D to E difficulty, somewhere around that. So that was the OA part. uh, I got that OA, and like I gave that OA, and then for some time I guess there was no response from Rubrik side. I mean, like for most people that was it, and I think like one of my friend actually cleared that OA. He got ahead. He got to interview, but most of us like we didn't get any callbacks at that point in time. Then after that, like some after some time, we had this ICPC preliminary round. So I hope that if you know about ICPC, it's like it's conducted in multiple rounds. The first one is an online preliminary round where people from all over India can participate. Now there our rank was actually pretty good. So our team rank was somewhere under 30, and after that, like we got that rank, and then we had this regionals and all these things going on, and then just in between I received a call from a Rubrik HR saying that, yeah, you're shortlisted for an interview and would you like to move on. That was actually a bit funny because thing was, I was having my lunch at that time, and these HRs, when they call, so they are first thing they ask you is this a good time to talk? And I was like, man, I'm having my lunch, and I thought that this was some marketing call from a bank. I said, no, this is not a good time to talk. I'll call you later. I didn't call her, but she called me back, and thankfully she called me back. Otherwise, I may have missed my opportunity. But yeah, like I got a call back from Rubrik at that time, and following that, so they scheduled it on a single day. So it's like normal 3 rounds of interview, two DSA and a managerial round. And so we were, I think, about 2 to 3 days ago. I like there was a gap of 2 to 3 days between me receiving this call and the actual interviews, and we actually had our exams going on during that time period. So I sort of like asked them to schedule it after our exams. The f- so all the 3 rounds were conducted on same day. So we got, and all of them were eliminative in nature. So the thing was, I gave my first round on 11 to 12. So the rounds were somewhere. So the overall duration was some 1 hour, and you had some part of it for solving problems, some part of it for some introduction and other questions. So the normal interview format. And the thing was, all rounds were eliminative in nature. So I think the first round was somewhere from 11:15 to 12:15 something, and that you gave that round after half an hour, you'd receive a call if you have been selected for next round or not. And then you had like the next round was scheduled immediately, like 1 or 2 hour with 1 or 2 hours of gap in between. So the first round, like the questions in the interview were, I would say, pretty interesting. I would say, like, it's if you these are not even like DSA questions, these are like purely competitive programming questions, something that you would expect in what you could say a code forces contest. So yeah, up till the OA point, you could say that some of the questions you will expect to see on lead code or say JFG or hacker rank. But with an interview, like both of the questions were pretty good. And like, I would say the level, I would say somewhere, I'm not exactly sure about the numbers, but in a code forces dev 2 round, you'd say somewhere around D to E, a difficult D or a normal E question sort of. Uh, the first question, it was so the first in the first round. So every round you just had a single question and you just had to solve that. In some cases, I think there were follow-ups. So actually, all three of my teammates got shortlisted for rubric interviews. So it was not just me giving interviews, but all three of us got shortlisted for interviews. And I think overall the format was same. You had three interviews on a single day, these things. And at least for me, it was just a single question with no follow-ups. But some of the guys, I think they had like you had a one question and you had one or two follow-ups. But mostly it's like the entire interview is centered around a single question. Even if there are follow-ups, they are like highly related to that question itself. In my case, to be honest, I don't exactly remember what the question I was asked was, but first question it was something like you have an array of numbers and you have some integer k, and you can perform the k operations to have like change the state of array to something. Uh, but yeah, like there was some exploration, and finally the approach that we settled on was that you have DP, sorry, like you have this binary search approach, and we're deciding where to cut the binary search, like is this midpoint good or not. You have a DP with like you have sort of this DP solution where you like basically see that whether this midpoint is good or not, like can you do it with this number of operations or not. That was like where you had some I'm not exactly sure of the context of the problem, like I don't remember it very well, but yeah, like it was a mix of binary search and DP, you could say. So that was like my first round. It went, yeah, like for 11 to this on that date was something around 12 p.m, 12:30 something. After that, like after 1.5 to 1 hour, I got to know that okay, I've been shortlisted for the next interview, and even the next interview was going to be a coding round, a DSA round. They say it to be DSA round, but it's actually a competitive programming round. So be sure about that. I mean, it's not just in my case because even the other guys who had these interviews, I asked them, it's more or less something of a competitive programming problems. Then followed by that, in the next interview, it was So the question was framed in a very different way, but I guess it was something like you had some rooms, and then you could fix in some array of I, and you could teleport from one room to another. And basically, like this problem sort of reduced to like those rooms basically formed a sort of graphs where each room was a node, and you had like Q queries where you can just like say I am at this room and how do I exit this like whole graph thing. And there like the whole the whole point of problem, like there was a lot of exploration in that problem particularly because uh, so there you actually had this number of queries and you had to optimize the problem for those queries. So there initially I gave some like brute force solution. Okay, just go on traversing the graph and see how many steps you need to exit the graph. After that, like there was a bit of back and forth. How do we optimize for read? How do we optimize for updates? These things. Finally, so there was this solution I had at the back of my mind where we use sort of you could say square root decomposition, like how you have in Moore's algorithm, I would say, where you uh, how should I say this, decompose the graph into blocks, and for certain blocks you store the answers. Something like that. I had it back of mind, but it was n root and solution, so I felt that maybe it won't suffice for this constraint. The constraint was some 10 power 4, 10 power 5. At the end, like 10-15 minutes before, I was sort of defeated ki bhai, it's not going to happen for right now. I'm not going to be able to solve it. So I just said that whatever I have in my mind, I should just tell the interviewer. So I like sort of sketched out all the possible solutions I can think of, and he said, "Ki, okay, this O and root n, that's like that looks great. I think that was the intended solution." So he was very happy when he looked at that n root n solution. He asked me to like quickly code it up. I think there was some 7-8 minutes remaining. I quickly coded it up. There were a few bugs. I'm not exactly sure how much time it was, but it was like serious time constraint, and I had to code it up very quickly. There was just one bug, and like that was one of the best implementations in my life where I coded something very quickly and I didn't have those many bugs. And yeah, one more thing, like these interviews. So the OA was, I think, on Hacker Rank, and these interviews were on CoderPad. So there you have like one section for the question, but usually they just like ask you to open the editor and there they paste the question in comments, and you actually have to explain your whole idea in the comments and then code it up. And then they also have their test cases and these things to run it on. So the interview format is that they'll give you a question, they'll give you some time to read, then you'll have to like talk it out with them, like what will be your solution, what you're thinking about these things. Then you code it up. Once you code it up, like you can just then there's also like some time where you'll have to explain that what are the edge cases that you're dealing with, what are like the overall expanse of the problem. And yeah, once that's done, like they'll just run it from their side. They also have some test cases on their side that they'll run it. And yep, once that's done, it's done. So that was about the DSA rounds. And after the second round, like after I guess about half to 1 hour, I once again received a call key. Okay, you have been shortlisted for next round, and it's a hiring managerial round. It was about 20 to 30 minutes, I guess. There you had two guys, like I think they were like some manager folks within Rubrik who like sort of interviewed. They looked at my resume, what are the projects you have worked on, and this was not like into some tech or like core tech part, but more like what are the things you have worked on, what will you do if certain situation crops up, and like how in general, like how let's just say that the pace is too much for you to pick up, how will you deal with it, what if you're given some new tech, how will you deal with these things. It was just sort of like a general discussion. And then again, the usual question that, do you have any questions for us? That was one thing. So, and DSA rounds is like that question is just okay. You ask something about what you work on and these things. In hiring manager round, it was more like you ask some better questions, ki like what the company is about, like what can I expect my role to be, what my responsibilities will be, these sort of things. Yep, that was about the overall process. After that, like after few days, I got to know that yeah, I've been selected for this winter internship, and then starting January, I joined as a winter intern.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man, awesome. So first of all, thank you so much for going into so much details, because usually people don't go much into details about the interview process. And it seems pretty difficult, because usually in a lot of companies you have to write the code, you have to explain, but they don't properly run it against test cases. Here, like you said,
Yep.
you have to explain also and run it like on a proper platform with proper test cases
Right.
as well, right? Which should pass.
Yep, that's true. Like they and now the thing is like the questions also are like pretty what I would say. These are not questions you. It's not like something that you could have say. It may be that you are looking at the question for the first time, and it's sort of like an entirely a contest type of you could say situation where you have this question and you actually have to flesh it out and look at the different ways you can approach it. So yeah, I would say that it's like a bit different from a few other company experiences. So to be honest, like Rubrik is you could say one of the better interviews I have given. Other than that, I don't really have experience giving such you could say interviews on tougher side. But yeah, compared to others, like you can't just practice a few set of problems and go and say that okay, I'll encounter one of them. You'll encounter something like so you can just think of it. You're giving a code forces contest with your interviewer. With your interviewer, you have to explain it to him, and you sort of have to arrive at the solution with him. So yeah, that's thing. But the great thing is that even the interview, they won't let you feel as if they are the interview. So, I mean, this is not like, okay, what's your name? And then they'll just sit quietly waiting for you to answer. It's like these guys will be very chill. And if you say something, and the thing was that when I was explaining things, even these guys were if so this is the intended solution if I am going in some other direction, it wasn't that okay no you're doing something wrong and go there. They were also exploring ki, okay maybe it can be solved in this way, maybe we can explore this solution. So even these guys were like interviewers were like very what you could say conversant with you, so they were actually speaking with you. And it was so the feeling was really was that you were actually solving things with the interviewer. You're not really okay they have asked a solution, they have a solution, you have to find that solution. It's more like you have this problem and we are tackling this problem sort of together where you're putting out some ideas, they are like discussing these ideas with it. So that sort of feeling. So yeah, I mean it's still difficult, but if you are into competitive programming it's solvable. It's not like yeah.
Hmm, totally, totally. All right, so let's get into your journey for a while because, like I mentioned earlier, you have pretty good credentials in the world of competitive programming, right? You have good ranks and ratings as well. And of course, you were able to crack the interviews of Rubrik, which are pretty difficult, considered to be one of the most difficult. So the first thing that I want to ask is when did you start your coding journey? When exactly did you get into the world of this coding?
So before coding, like the first time wrote a program that was like, I think in 11th, 12th, we had some HTML, CSS and these things, but that wasn't very serious. You had to write programs in Notepad and these things at that time. So that I won't really say it was coding, but after I gave my JEE advanced exam and my 12th, so after my JEE advanced exam, I was sure कि मतलब whatever the result, it's not going to be very good for me. So वो clarity आ गई थी. Now I thought कि okay, like this I have screwed up, but let's see what we can do better next time. So I also was clear that I was not going to take a drop or anything. So I was like, okay, we have somehow like ended up screwing up this opportunity in 11th, 12th, the entrance exams, but now let's look forward and see what we can do. And that time I picked up a book because like when you search on internet what is the first thing you should do, then it's more like less like you get to know कि python is good for beginners and कि मतलब वो छोटे बच्चों का tutorial भी usually it's in python and these things. So I picked up some book on python, and I had this old laptop at home. I think my father took it a very long time ago, and I was actually using that laptop throughout my first and part of my second year. Very old Acer's laptop, and somehow I was able to install Python on that, and I started like learning Python at that time. So I think for first 2 to 3 months, mostly I was completely into Python. And that time it was not at all like competitive programming side or anything. It's mostly I was learning ki regex grep and then like using these Python libraries की वो मतलब initially you get that feel right कि मतलब मजा आ रहा है कुछ तो हो रहा है you know you look at your Python program and automatically it's reading Excel sheets and doing a bunch of stuff automatically it's going and clicking stuff so these things for 2 3 months that was good post that like when I started my first year after that I think I'm not exactly I don't exactly remember the timelines but after some like I enrolled in college and got to meet my seniors there we had this code chef WC chapter within our college I had like heard about competitive programming a bit on YouTube here and there but was not really that serious with competitive programming and there like we have this sort of what you would say onboarding session for first years where you have different clubs in our college so these clubs like the at that time it was COVID time so you had it on Zoom meets right now we have it physically where like, different clubs come forward you have seniors from different clubs and they present you what are the things you should do how should your engineering journey look like and there I was a bit lazy so I didn't attend all of them but thankfully I attend the code shift one and in there they like told okay, okay yes you have something called competitive programming that's really important if you want to get a job but more importantly that so what I got to know at that time was that if you're sort of like maths or related things then competitive programming will be really enjoyable for you so that was one of my primary motivations at that time to get into competitive programming because I like math but yeah I was like sort of losing touch from it at that time and yeah, I think at the I started there. The first platform I was on CodeChef, and in during that time you started from 2 star. So right now you start from zero, but at that time you started from 2 star. So when I made my account, I gave 2 or 3 contests and I just let it be there. So and after some time, CodeChef changed that rule. So by default, I became a 2 star in our college, but rest people they had to start from 1 star. Sorry, not yeah, I am not sure. Like there's this gray level, you have green level, and I was there on green and something. Yep. Yeah. So that was there. So for some time I was not still not that serious, but after some time, like we had these WhatsApp groups and discussions ongoing. Then we also had a contest in our college where like seniors themselves they set the problems and they got a codeship page and they actually conducted a contest. That was so there what they offered was that if you get into so these clubs they have a process where you have an interview process for these clubs too you have this is sort of to mock what you could say a company interview hiring so you have online assessment then you have interviews this is more or less something similar to company rounds just with here you have here you have very high selection rates so when you enter real world you realize that selection rates are not that high but yeah and like after that like so thing was that due to these so we kept on having these contests within our college so ऐसे हो गया था कि like थोड़ा कि मतलब मेरा रैंक अच्छा है then that became something you could flex within your student community so uh, that sort of went on and like after that like, started giving contests a little more regularly a little more seriously on code forces I started quite late I would say on codechef at that time it was still the online semester and I think just before my this codeship club interview I reached 3 star on codeship at that time and 3 star in first year that was within our college at least at that time it was considered pretty good so वो हो गया था and एक्चुअली इट वाज कंसिडर गुड सो थोड़ा डाउट भी आ गया था इंटरव्यूज को कि मेरे क्लब की कि यार सही में तुमने ही किया है ना सो दैट आई एक्चुअली हैड टू एक्सप्लेन कि ओके नो सो in my first year we actually also had courtship long contests so these were 20 days long contests where you had some 10 15 problems and like you solved it for 20 days and I was sitting with the last problem for some 2.5 days and मतलब after 2.5 days and a lot of things I was able to solve that problem and वही था कि so they asked me कि मतलब how did you actually solve this thing so there was a lot of discussion कि मतलब did I actually solve it and when they got to know कि okay यार तुमने ही सही में solve किया then they were happy and आगे का हो गया and I got into that club. So that courtship club, that was like the main point where I got to meet a lot of people who were doing CP. So there we usually discuss here, how did the yesterday's contest go, how did today's contest go, like what are the new concepts that you're learning. And yeah, like that was, you could say, my point of exposure for the overall competitive programming. I also got to to know a lot from my seniors. So that would be where I sort of mixed into this competitive programming world. My performance in first year went pretty smooth after that. So after three, so I like went to some 4-star and things. Then we had this offline semester, 5-star, and then courtship changed their rating, and I became a 6-star in first year somehow. And that like वो थोड़ा कॉलेज में ऐसे ये हो गया था कि a 6-star in first year. So and that was like a big कि मतलब everyone was congratulating, and थोड़ा मतलब like at that time you get a bit of motivation कि हाँ यार, like this is something amazing, people are like really into these things. So like we had this motivation overall, and that was also around the time. So our first semester was online, second semester was offline. We actually had to come to college, and like when we came second year, second semester, that was like also like sort of time where we were getting to know a bit about ICPC. To be really honest, in the first year we didn't really know a lot about ICPC. Like we didn't even, like we knew that ICPC existed, कि there's this intercollegiate programming contest, इसका full form है, यही एक चीज़ like first thing we knew. बाकी like it's all over the world, काफ़ी famous है, but not exactly the entire process कि मतलब register कैसे करना होता है, how do you actually compete, what is the structure and all these things. First year went over that, and that time you had COVID ongoing, so a lot of confusion too. So वो था. Second year we got to know a bit more कि ICPC actually कैसे होता है, and we also participated in ICPC for first time. So there you actually have to make ICPC game, like someone, one of professors in your college has to make an account. You students also have to make an account, and then you register and all these things. uh, that was there. But even in second year मतलब ऐसे चल रहा था कि side by side we were also participating in hackathons. Okay, so I mean competitive programming is good, but it's मतलब यू आर अ सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर एंड मतलब तुम कुछ बना ही नहीं सकते हो, तो यू डोंट फील गुड, राइट. सो यू हैड दिस एज की मतलब यार आई वांट टू गेट इनटू डेव, आई वांट टू एक्चुअली बिल्ड समथिंग. मतलब वो भी साइड बाय साइड था. सो साइड बाय साइड वी आर आल्सो पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन कि मतलब कोई हैकाथॉन आ गया. सो मोस्टली फर्स्ट ईयर में इट वाज जस्ट सम नॉर्मल वेब डेव. फर्स्ट ईयर का आई थिंक इवन आवर फर्स्ट प्रोजेक्ट वाज सॉर्ट ऑफ कि एक Django एप्लीकेशन था. आई वर्कड ऑन Django पार्ट, एंड देयर वाज अ गाय हु वाज गुड विद HTML CSS. सो मतलब वही लेके उसका Django टेम्पलेटिंग लाइक चेंज इट a bit with Jinja templating, and उसी से like we made a website. तो यही था हमारा first hackathon project. But yeah, you get, when you're actually developing something, you get that feel कि like you're actual software guy who knows to build things. Yep. And that's actually, I think it's pretty important because it motivates you कि मतलब थोड़ा हाँ, you are on the right track. uh, Other than that, in the second year we like got to really got into ICPC. मतलब इस time we did our homework कि मतलब registration करना है, then we have some preparation. Even here वो मतलब actually ऐसे हो गया था कि like there were two ICPC regionals at that time, Amrita and I think Amrita and Kanpur, Mathura, I guess. So there were two. We registered for Mathura, and मतलब अमृता का बाद में करते ऐसे ही हो गया था. And we were in an hackathon, and we missed the deadline for the अमृता वाला की registration के लिए. So that happened. So even though there were two regionals, we were only registered for a single one, and there we like just missed our spot two regionals. So there were in Mathura regionals, what happened in our second year was that you had four questions which were solvable, not easy, but yeah, solvable. And solvable in the sense like some 150 to 160 teams solved all four problems. So it was more on key, what is the amount of time you have took to solve those problems. So we just missed in some time. One of our seniors went for that regional. मतलब वो साल ऐसा था कि like sort of we came back, we thought on कि what we did things wrong, and we once again कि like टीम में थोड़ा हमने डिस्कशन किया कि what are the things we can improve on in these things. And then third year like we were once again back into ICPC. तो थर्ड ईयर में भी स्टिल लाइक वही हुआ कि लाइक प्रीलिम्स में चले गए. दिस टाइम वी वेंट टू रीजनल्स. रीजनल्स में थोड़ा लाइक गड़बड़ हो गया था बिकॉज in prelims you are actually sitting online, so three guys have three different laptops. And like competitive programmers, we are usually used to solving problems alone, but when you go to regionals, there's one PC and three guys sitting on it. So that was a bit of a new environment. So regionals may like we like on pre in prelims we had some 35-40 rank, even in third year. But when we went to regionals, there it was not that great कि मतलब some 120 पे आ गए थे direct. So that happened. Then in fourth year के हमने like we worked on it once again. And uh, so we worked on it once again. And like actually when like sort of I was coordinating with my teammates ki how do we actually what you could say improve upon our shortcomings over there. We had a lot of discussions, and usme like I was able to clear up a lot of things, say from a CP fundamentals perspective. And that was also like sometime around that I became master on code forces. So I became 5 star on code chefs in first year. Then it was mostly sort of you could say a winter period ki matlab not much on competitive programming side. I was just regularly giving contests, but yeah, rating increased a bit here and there. Expert on code forces, 5 star on code chef. 6 star I went once, but like that was mostly due to rating change. Second, third year, man, not that much. I was mostly into dev, but within third to fourth year, like I got pretty good improvements in my CP. So that I would say I would mostly credit it to like interacting a lot with people. Ki I got to clarify a lot of things on my side too. There I actually like became a stable 6 star on code chef, and also like got from expert to candidate master to master on code forces. So that was on ratings part. But yeah, again, and like team bonding भी अच्छा हुआ था वो time पे. So yeah, like we were in fourth year, and like fourth year में that was our final attempt. There we got pretty good in prelims. Prelims में there were a bit of issues कि मतलब prelims had to be conducted 2 times this year. First prelims that it got messed up due to some server issues and these things. But yeah, I mean, got good ranks in prelims, then went to regionals. Regionals में भी अच्छे ही आए थे. And Asia West like was the final thing we went to. वहाँ पे we got rank 19. So yeah, like that was the overall ICPC part of things. On dev, I won't say that I have done a lot in dev, but yeah, like regularly wherever I've had chance, I have like sort of tried to participate in hackathon and these things. Not because of some this will do this or this will help me somewhere or the other, but because if you are into this, what you could say, if you want to be a software developer, like you have somewhere or other you have that passion for building things. So matlab, वही if I get some chance somewhere, I mostly got into it, but never really got to go get into dev seriously कि मतलब I'm doing GSOC or something वैसे नहीं, but just normal hackathons here and there.
I think still you did a lot for a CP guy. Generally, all the CP guys I've seen are not into dev at all. you know,
Okay.
so I still
Yeah.
think you did pretty well. And I
Yeah.
think that's a very
This. Yeah, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
No, I was thinking that's a very ideal life college part you spent, because you didn't focus on one thing. You had ICPC
Yeah.
going on, you had CP going on, you had hackathons going on, you had a community. So I just
True,
wanted to
true,
say it's a
true.
very ideal college life. Yeah.
A community, one thing with community is that you get to enjoy a lot. So it's not, even if you're grinding many hours a day, it's like you give the contest today, but tomorrow you have friends to discuss it with. You solve 4 problems today, तो मतलब कल जाके दोस्तों को बता सकते हो कि यार I solved 4 problems today. One more part I'd like to mention, notable one was कि so after third year we had a summer internships. So वो ऐसे like हो गया था कि college on campus में the top company was Deutsche Bank, and they had the summer internship. But so I won't say like I had this old Acer laptop and I got it switched. कि मतलब वो old Acer laptop में I was having this problem कि without like its battery messed up somewhere, and कि like without charging it just won't start. So I switched it with new laptop, but sort of left a curse on me कि वो नया laptop में भी वही problem start हो गया था कि its battery won't start without this time, and it even had a camera problem. So in between that Deutsche Bank aptitude, so in their OA, my camera went out and I was basically kicked out of the test. मतलब it was an online test, so I was like exit हो गया था. एंड आई मिस दैट टैप टी. सो उसके बाद लाइक आई वाज लुकिंग कि मतलब कहीं पे इंटर्नशिप मिल जाए, एंड आई गॉट अ प्रिटी good internship, I would say. So there was this early stage startup. They're still like not was they're still there. So it's called Cooptem. It's startup in agri. So a few guys from IIT KGP, they are running this startup. They came to Sunny for this great thing. So मतलब वो था कि like they were looking for people to work with them for a few months. So for I guess 1 to 2 months I was there. Uh, that part, I mean, it was like the internship. So the internship was unpaid in and itself, but the work was amazing and it was pretty intense. कि मतलब like दिन में you are 16-20 hours a day you are working. वैसे था कि लाइक आई यूज टू स्लीप एट 4 AM, वेक अप एट 8 AM एंड अटेंड अ मीट. तो बहुत मतलब कुछ डिस्कस होता था, फिर काम करते थे, फिर शाम को एक मीट होती थी. फिर यार मतलब उसमें से पता चलता रहा यार अच्छा ये ठीक है, ये ठीक नहीं है, ये यार बेकार में टाइम वेस्ट हो गया. देन वंस अगेन यू वर्क थ्रू. सोचते थे कि यार हाँ आज तो 11 बजे सोऊंगा, बट वंस अगेन यू आर इन दैट वर्क फ्लो. एंड या लाइक यू जस्ट गो ऑन वर्किंग 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 एंड मतलब वो थोड़ा हो जाता था. सो दैट वाज लाइक प्रिटी इंटेंस वर्क एंड दैट वाज आई वुड से वेरी एंजॉयबल. कि लाइक CP इज अ थिंग, बट अदर देन दैट लाइक डेव कैन ऑल्सो बी एंजॉयबल. सो मतलब वो भी एक था कि फर्स्ट सेकेंड ईयर में थोड़ा ऐसे हो गया था, थोड़ा रेस्ट्रिक्टिव लगने लग गया था कि हैकाथॉन्स तो थे बट आई एम जस्ट इन टू CP. सो यू ऑल्सो स्टार्ट टू फील दैट यू आर मिसिंग आउट ऑन समथिंग. सो वो इंटर्नशिप में गॉट टू नो अ लॉट एंड मतलब इट वाज एन अमेजिंग एक्सपीरियंस ओवरऑल. एंड थोड़ा रिसर्च टाइप में था, तो दैट वाज अमेजिंग. बट या आई कुडंट कंटिन्यू फर्दर बिकॉज कि थोड़ा कॉलेज के साइड यू हैड बिट ऑफ लोड, बिकॉज आई स्टिल हैड माय फोर्थ ईयर ऑन गोइंग एंड कुडंट बैलेंस आउट माय academics with it. So I had to leave it out. So
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a great way to handle development, rather than making your own projects and doing self-based projects, it gets a bit boring.
yeah.
But once you go into a this kind of startup where there's a lot of work and it's enjoyable, then I think your dev just goes to the next level, basically, right?
Yeah, true. And
Huh.
yeah, in startups you usually not just it's not just that you have a lot of work, but it's that when you work on something you have people to discuss it with. And that's like
Hmm.
strict rubrics ki like this thing has to work this like matlab this is your
Yeah,
problem.
yes.
Okay, you have 10 ways to solve it, but वो problem solve होना चाहिए. It's not that you make some project and मतलब उसका कुछ अच्छे से you make 10 bullet points and it's done. It's कि you have very specific problems to solve over there. So that's the great part about working there.
Correct. And like you said, the work there is impactful. In a big tech, you don't see a lot of impact that you create. But startup में दिखता है कि यार ये impact create किया है मैंने, है ना?
The
That is
only issue
also
is कि
great feeling.
मतलब सैलरी थोड़ी कम लगती है.
वो तो है, वो तो है स्टार्टअप में, बट इट्स ग्रेट फॉर लर्निंग पर्पस, इंटर्नशिप अगर
True,
किसी
true,
स्टार्टअप
true.
में मिल गई तो डेफिनेटली एक
Yeah,
एज मिल जाएगा यार बाकी लोगों के ऊपर, है ना?
yeah.
डेफिनेटली. All right. So, जैसे we discussed about your CP journey, you came all the way from, you started at
Mm-hmm.
the bottom and then you came to 6 stars, you came to master on code courses right now. So, I want to know, how did you bridge the gap? Because you might have
Okay.
seen, and like we see many people starting CP, right? Many people make an account on code courses, but you see most of the people are just stuck at newbie pupil, right? That's the
Yeah,
majority of the population gets stuck. Very few people are actually able to come to the expert and beyond level, even master level.
yeah.
So, what would you say was your primary strategy that you could actually improve and come to this level, basically?
So like, before strategy, like I would like sort of like to highlight one thing that I think people somehow or the other end up ignoring. Actually, I had this one streak in my first year where I went from 2 star to 3 star to 4 star to 5 star, and due to the courtship rating change, I was 6 star for some time, came back. That was like one streak. After that I had like this 2 years of gap, and after which I like became 6 star on courtship and then candid master to master on code forces. So like the one thing that I have observed here is that it's okay, like you have certain strategies, different things work for different people, but you also need to have that mindset ki, because when you're giving contests sometimes it just ends up being a bit monotonous, you're not enjoying it that much. And like you also need to have that headspace key after contest, you have that curiosity and energy to explore things. So really you see it's one thing is that you should have your basics covered. Matlab, if you start CP and if you just go and jump in कि मतलब you should go and jump in definitely, but other than that you should also be like focus कि मतलब you don't know what's a queue, you don't know what's a stack, and you are going and trying to solve contest problem and you don't get anything, and like you're coming back disappointed. That may happen. So one thing is like at least like bare basics, so you should cover it. So yeah, that's like one thing. So I think for that you could just go and maybe just try to solve CACS. That's like one good benchmark. Yeah, in generally like once you start discussing with competitive programmers around you, you'll get to know कि यार these guys know of these things, so at least I should know of these things. वो है कि first thing is that you should have that baseline कि मतलब I am clear on most of these concepts. At least कि like if I have to solve this, I know what this means if I see it somewhere in the contest or या फिर किसी solution में. Second is about that mindset कि when you start CP, you're very curious. Like when you don't solve problem, when you're not able to solve a problem, you may be a bit discouraged, but after contest you have that curiosity कि मतलब how is the solution for this problem कि यार मतलब इसको कैसे solve करते हैं, how do you approach it when you learn something new. It's he You have that feeling, you have that jubilation of learning something new. Over time like somewhere or the other, what happens with most people is कि वो थोड़ा ऐसे monotonous हो जाता है. वो sort of just contest देने के लिए खुद को धक्का मार रहे हैं कि यार कुछ तो achieve करना है, इसके लिए कर रहे हैं. So when that happens, your productivity drops, and I think like that's one of the major reason why I've seen people like very good people who are doing all things very great. And मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि यार they are very good people like who are pretty great with other things, academics मान लो, dev मान लो, but over here in CP they somewhere or the other have lost that touch. And even though they are giving contest के मतलब somewhere or other it's just कि वो monotonous हो गया थोड़ा सा. It happened with me too कि like second third year में somewhere or other it happened with me too कि I was just giving contest but not really that serious कि मतलब just दे रहे हैं. So that happens once in a while. And so when that happens, like it's not that you can do a lot over here, but somewhere you can try to do something that will give you a change. For me that change was ICPC when I went to regionals first time कि वो सारे competitive programmers, when you look at competitive programmers all around you, and like good competitive programmers high rated, ऐसे मतलब तुम जा रहे हो और वहाँ पे एक मास्टर बैठा है, वहाँ पे एक ग्रैंड मास्टर बैठा है, ऐसी चीज़ें होती है. तो like you get that like sort of shock कि हाँ यार अमेजिंग है, इंटरेस्टिंग है, यू गेट दैट कि मतलब कुछ नया आ रहा है. एंड वंस अगेन दैट रीइग्नाइट्स योर क्यूरियोसिटी. एंड मतलब उसके बाद आई आई लाइक सॉर्ट ऑफ गॉट अप टू मास्टर आफ्टर दैट पॉइंट. सो माई पॉइंट इज कि देर आर लॉट ऑफ स्ट्रेटेजीज कि मतलब काफ़ी सारी चीज़ तरीके से जा सकते हो, बट डू कीप इट एट द बैक ऑफ योर माइंड कि मतलब आर यू दैट क्यूरियस कि मतलब वो कॉन्टेस्ट में आर यू गेटिंग दैट व्हाट यू कुड से क्यूरियोसिटी बोल सकते हैं, या फिर यार डू यू हैव दैट एनर्जी टूवर्ड्स कॉम्पिटिटिव प्रोग्रामिंग, और आर यू जस्ट स्लॉथिंग टू कि मतलब दे रहे कॉन्टेस्ट बस आप सॉल्व कर रहे हैं नाम के लिए कि आई एम जस्ट वर्किंग हार्ड बट यू आर नॉट रियली दैट इंटरेस्टेड. So that's a major thing, because if you don't have this, like no matter what you do, वो just it will be just like your some academic assignment thing. Okay, so do make sure of that thing. And if you feel that sloth and if you still want to be in CP, like I think the best way to solve this is कि like go find some friends, उनके साथ discuss करो. Or like one of the best things I like what I did was like what I accidentally ended up doing was कि I participated in a lot of this competitive programming competitions. So ICPC was one of them. In between, like Arm Institute Technology Pune, they used to conduct this CodeF. Like they still conducted this CodeF competition. Like it was biggest in Pune, I guess at that time. For me, it was like biggest I had ever been for the first time. But yeah, you participate in these sorts of competitions. So what happens is when you get to interact with a lot of these people, like even you yourself like start being a bit more curious, and वो थोड़ा मतलब energy आ जाता है कि there are people around us who are doing these things. That's one thing. On strategy side, to be really honest, I'm a very lazy guy, so I didn't really do a lot other than giving contests. So most of it was कि okay, there's a contest today, and this is one thing. Like contest was the one thing that I was giving regularly कि 8 to initially code shift used to be 8 to 11. And I was so lazy कि मतलब I used to have my dinner at 8, and some 8:30, 8:45 I would start giving my contest. सो वो सेकंड थर्ड ईयर तक होता था। थर्ड ईयर में आई गॉट अ बिट मोर सीरियस कि मतलब हायर रेटिंग इज़ इम्पोर्टेंट, ऐसे ही नहीं ले सकते लाइटली। देयर आई कि थोड़ा डिनर को पुश बैक किया एंड आई स्टार्टेड गिविंग कॉन्टेस्ट स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम 8। Yeah, like that was thing. So from my side, honestly, really the only thing I did was I gave contest, I absolved problems, and more like absolving. So even with absolving, I was not कि यार absolve ही करना है. It's more like कि there was this last problem that you are always stuck on, right? कि मतलब you almost have the solution, but just something misses. या फिर you know कि मतलब चार component है, you know the three components कि यहाँ से यहाँ जाना है, एंड फिर यू नो लास्ट का कंपोनेंट, यू डोंट जस्ट नो दैट वन मिसिंग कंपोनेंट की हाउ डू आई डू दिस थिंग, how do I do range queries on say XOR, like how do I apply segmentary to XOR, या फिर that kinds of things. And I mostly कि I had these missing links, and I कि मतलब once I look at the solution कि उस solution में you had some explanation there कि I didn't understand some concept, फिर वहाँ से I would go to CPL Go or try to search it out on YouTube. वहाँ से we would sort of कि got to learn a few things in that way, mostly that. Yeah, but in the initial phases I was like pretty rigorous with how I started things कि मतलब I think on HackerRank you had this big list of problems for basic DSSM 50-60. I did that. So at the start you should definitely like have some discipline कि you should first get your basic cleared, as I said. Like you should set that baseline, you know the concepts. After that, like refining your knowledge and like actually improving your ability to apply these concepts, mix and mash these things and actually solve the problem at hand, that will take some time, and that there you'll need to have this curiosity and like actually going in solving problems. And then if you're not able to solve them, after some time like trying out, looking at the solution, exploring. If you don't know anything, like actually going in and reading and learning about these things. And not just learning in the sense कि मतलब वो solution के लिए you learn it, but when you learn something कि मतलब actually exploring कि what's this, where does this fit in, मतलब where else you can use it. So yeah, I would say that was on the competitive programming side.
Mm-hmm. You know, one thing that I've noticed after interacting with so many competitive programmers that are, on a good level is this curiosity thing that you're mentioning. Most of
Yeah,
the people, like you said, learn the algorithm to solve the problem. But, you have to at that level, you're curious. How does it actually work? Rather than thinking of it as an assignment, you have to basically actually love the process of competitive programming or coding. Without that it's very difficult to go far, unless you'll have burnouts, you'll have lack of motivation, you'll have all of those things. And the best way to fall in love with it is by having people around you who are doing the same thing, right? Like you had a
yep,
community, you should have friends.
Yeah, like to be honest, like I was really lucky to like have these people around me. So even like particularly what happened was that courtship, this club was entirely started by our super seniors, and our seniors were like guys who actually took the lead and said, "Ki, we want to establish this CP culture." And people there and in our batch, they responded really well. So I was really fortunate कि मतलब I had these people around me who were really interested in that, and whenever something was there, they were supportive. They and even they themselves were giving a lot of contests and see ICPC and these things. People gave a lot of importance to these things. So I would say if you can find such a community, never miss out on it. कि मतलब if you are getting chance to be part of any such community, हो सकता है offline now, maybe you are getting to be part of it online. Even then, don't miss out a chance to be like part of it anywhere, because it really helps a lot. Like not just in motivation कि मतलब आपको एक one is you get motivation, other is you get to learn a lot of things, and third is कि there's just this thing that you don't know a lot of things. मतलब you don't even know कि मतलब ये मुझे पता नहीं था, या फिर there are these things in the world, but you get to know about them from them. And lastly कि मतलब even rubric opportunity, so ऐसा था कि rubric had this off campus opportunity ongoing, and I had sort of ignored it because off campus में there's a lot of things that are coming incoming, like दिन में काफी सारे positions निकलते हैं, where do you apply, where don't you apply, you have limited time at the end of the day. So I even got to know कि मतलब you should apply here. I got this recommendation from one of my friends over there, and in ICPC too. So there was this Go for Gold camp, and even uska like recommendation. So I think that was sponsored by Rubrik. So maybe it has some relation to our shortlisting. Even uska recommendation I got from one of my juniors who's in that club. Ki you have good, what you could say, CP profile and these things. So definitely try out ki uh, you try out
Right,
going to
right.
this
So
go for gold camp.
again, it's that ki having good friends around you will be the push that you need. The X factor basically that you need for mastering problem solving in DSA.
True, true.
All right. Okay. So I guess we have covered pretty much everything about Jay's journey to becoming a master on code forces, 6 stars, and eventually cracking up Rubrik. And I don't think we missed anything, but still, I'll give his LinkedIn in the description. If you guys have any doubt, you can connect with him from there and follow him from there. So thanks a lot, Jay, for taking out your time and coming on my podcast and sharing your journey and all of these amazing tips. I really hope this helps a lot of students. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Ashish, for inviting me to the podcast. And like it was amazing discussing with you. And yeah, really thanks.